The moving truck pulled away at 4:47 p.m. on a Saturday, leaving behind a mess of cardboard boxes and that particular exhaustion that comes from uprooting your entire life. Dr. Kendra Matthews stood in the foyer of her new home, a custom-built colonial in Riverside Meadows, one of those gated communities where the HOA regulated everything from mailbox colors to the acceptable height of your lawn. She'd worked 16 years for this moment. 4 years of undergrad at Howard, 4 brutal years of medical school at Johns Hopkins, 7 years of neurosurgery residency and fellowship at Massachusetts General, and 1 year as an attending surgeon building her reputation. At 37, she was one of only 300 Black female neurosurgeons in the entire United States, a statistic that shouldn't still be true in 2026, but was.
Hurry, Dad, the view
Her
is
husband,
amazing.
Isaiah Matthews, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You good, baby?" Kendra leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his chest against her back. Isaiah was a freelance graphic designer who could work from anywhere, which was exactly why they'd chosen this place. Close enough to Metro General Hospital for her unpredictable schedule, quiet enough for him to focus on his design projects, and in a school district that would give their daughter Maya the opportunities they'd both fought so hard to earn. "I'm good," Kendra said, just thinking about how Grandma Rose would have loved this house. Isaiah kissed the top of her head. "She's loving it from wherever she is. First person in your family to own a home, remember? She'd be losing her mind right now." Kendra smiled. Her grandmother had cleaned houses in neighborhoods like this one for 40 years. Never got to live in one, though. That particular injustice sat heavy in Kendra's chest sometimes, especially on days like today, when the weight of being the first pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. "Daddy, Daddy, come look!" 10-year-old Maya's voice echoed from somewhere upstairs. "My room has a window seat." Isaiah squeezed Kendra's shoulder. "Duty calls. You gonna start unpacking, or are you going to stand here having an existential crisis?" Little bit of both, probably. He laughed and headed upstairs, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood floors they'd spent 3 months picking out. Kendra looked around at the towers of boxes marked kitchen, books, Maya's art supplies, and felt that particular species of overwhelm that comes from realizing you own way too much stuff. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mentor, Dr. Patricia Chen at Mass General. "Heard you made it to the new place. Don't forget, you're too talented to disappear into suburbia. Stay sharp." Kendra smiled and typed back. "Already got privileges at Metro General. Starting next week. Stop worrying." "Good. We didn't train you for 16 years to lose you to PTA meetings." Kendra was still smiling when she heard voices outside. Angry voices. Through the front window, Kendra saw Isaiah in the front yard. He'd changed into old jeans and a faded Howard University t-shirt, his official doing yard work uniform, and was kneeling by the flower beds with a trowel in one hand and a flat of impatience in the other. The previous owners had left the landscaping in rough shape, and Isaiah, who actually enjoyed this kind of thing, had been excited about fixing it up. But he wasn't alone. A white woman stood on the sidewalk, late 50s, blonde highlights, wearing yoga pants that probably cost more than Isaiah's entire outfit, an expression that Kendra recognized immediately. She'd seen it on the faces of patients' families who asked to speak to the real doctor when she walked into the room, on the security guards who followed her through department stores, on the flight attendants who asked if she was sure she was supposed to be in first class. It was the look of someone who'd already decided you didn't belong. Kendra's stomach tightened. She opened the front door just as the woman's voice rose loud enough to carry. "I'm not asking again. What are you doing here?" Before we continue, if you love stories about karma, justice, and life-changing decisions, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens when prejudice meets consequences. Now, let's get into this incredible true story. Isaiah stood slowly, brushing dirt from his knees. His voice was calm, carefully neutral, the tone he used when he knew things could go wrong fast. "I live here, ma'am. Just moved in today, planting some flowers." "You live here?" The woman crossed her arms. "In this house." "Yes, ma'am." "I've never seen you before. That's probably because we just moved in, about 4 hours ago. Isaiah gestured to the moving truck's tire tracks still visible in the fresh asphalt of their driveway. We're the new owners. The woman's eyes narrowed. Kendra watched her do the mental math. Black man, yard work clothes, this neighborhood, and come to the conclusion she'd already decided on before the conversation started. I don't think so, the woman said. I think you're casing houses, or worse. Kendra was already moving, pushing through the front door and crossing the lawn in her bare feet. Excuse me, is there a problem? The woman's gaze flicked to Kendra, taking in her expensive athleisure wear and diamond wedding ring with visible confusion. You could see her brain trying to reconcile what she was seeing with what she'd assumed. I was just asking this man what he's doing on this property, the woman said. Her tone slightly less aggressive now, but still dripping with suspicion. He's planting flowers in our yard, Kendra said, each word crisp and clear. We own this house. We moved in today. And I'm not sure why that requires an interrogation from a neighbor we haven't even met yet. Isaiah touched Kendra's arm lightly. A warning. Don't escalate. She knew he was right, but God, she was tired. Tired of this. Tired of proving they belonged in spaces they'd paid for, worked for, earned 10 times over. The woman's face flushed. Well, you can't be too careful these days. There's been a lot of crime. In Riverside Meadows? Kendra's eyebrows shot up. The gated community with 24/7 security and a crime rate of basically zero, according to the statistics the HOA sent us. That crime? You know what I mean. I actually don't. Why don't you explain it to me? The woman's flush deepened. I don't appreciate your tone. I'm just trying to protect this neighborhood. We have standards here. Standards. Kendra let the word hang in the air. And you think we don't meet them? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Kendra could feel Isaiah's hand on her arm, still cautioning restraint, but 17 years of microaggressions were bubbling up in her throat. My husband was planting flowers in our yard. In our yard. And you decided he was a criminal. Based on what exactly? The woman's mouth opened and closed. Then her expression hardened into something uglier. I'm calling security, she said, pulling out her phone. Let them sort this out. Ma'am, that's really not necessary, Isaiah started. I think it is. The woman was already dialing. This is Linda Ashford from 2847 Pinewood Lane. I need security at 2851 immediately. There's a suspicious person on the property claiming to live there. Yes, I'll wait. Kendra felt Isaiah's grip tighten on her arm. Let's just go inside, he said quietly. This isn't worth it. But Kendra couldn't move. Couldn't believe this was happening. They'd been in their house for 4 hours. 4 hours, and already someone was calling security on them for existing in their own front yard. Security arrived in 8 minutes. 2 white men in golf carts with official-looking badges, both of them looking uncomfortable when they saw Kendra and Isaiah standing on their own front porch, while Linda Ashford stood on the sidewalk with her arms crossed like a sentinel. Folks, the older security guard said, his nameplate reading J. Morrison. We got a call about a disturbance? There's no disturbance, Kendra said. My husband was planting flowers. Mrs. Ashford decided that was suspicious. Morrison glanced at the flats of impatience, the trowel, the bag of potting soil. His expression suggested he knew exactly how ridiculous this was, but he still had to go through the motions. Can I see some ID? Just to verify residency? Isaiah pulled out his driver's license, still showing their old address in Boston. We just moved in today. Haven't had a chance to update it yet, but we have the deed, closing paper, everything. The second guard, younger and clearly uncomfortable, said, Sir, if you could just cooperate. He is cooperating, Kendra cut in. He's showing you ID. What more do you want? Ma'am, I understand you're frustrated, but we have to respond to all calls. Even when they're clearly racially motivated? The words dropped into the conversation like a bomb. Both guards stiffened. Linda Ashford made a sound of outrage. That is completely uncalled for, Linda snapped. This has nothing to do with race. I would have called on anyone I didn't recognize. Would you? Kendra turned to face her fully. Because we have 3 other new families on this street who moved in this month. I saw the HOA newsletter. 2 of them are white. Did you interrogate them when they were unloading their moving trucks? Or is it just us? Linda's face went red. I don't have to stand here and be accused. Then leave. Kendra's voice was ice. You're on a public sidewalk harassing your new neighbors. We've given you our ID. We've explained the situation. If you're not satisfied, that sounds like a you problem. Morrison stepped in, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Look, folks, I think there's been a misunderstanding. That's when the police showed up. If you're already feeling angry about this, just wait. It gets so much worse before it gets better. Make sure you're subscribed because the twist in this story is absolutely insane. Now back to what happened next. Kendra would replay this moment in her head for weeks afterward, trying to figure out when exactly things spiraled out of control. The squad car pulled up with no sirens, but the lights were flashing, red and blue painting the manicured lawns and identical mailboxes of Riverside Meadows in colors that didn't belong there. 2 officers got out. One was a white man in his early 30s, tall and broad-shouldered with a buzz cut that screamed ex-military. His nameplate read, Officer D. Reeves. The other was a Latina woman, older, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her nameplate, Officer L. Santos. What's the situation? Reeves asked, his hand resting casually on his belt. Not on his weapon, but close enough that Kendra's heart rate kicked up anyway. Morrison started to explain, but Linda Ashford cut him off. This man was trespassing on this property, she said, pointing at Isaiah. He became aggressive when I questioned him, and now they're both being hostile and uncooperative. Kendra's vision actually blurred with rage for a second. That is a complete lie. Ma'am, I need you to calm down, Reeves said, his attention shifting to Kendra in a way that made her skin crawl. I am calm. What I am is telling you that woman is lying. My husband was planting flowers in our yard. Our yard. We own this house. Do you have proof of that? The question landed like a slap. Kendra stared at him. Proof that I own my own house? Any documentation showing you have a right to be on this property? Isaiah was already pulling out his phone. I can pull up the deed. It's in our email from the title company. Sir, I need you to put the phone down and keep your hands where I can see them. The temperature of the entire situation dropped about 20 degrees. Isaiah froze, his phone still in his hand, his eyes meeting Kendra's for just a fraction of a second. In that look, she saw everything they'd never had to say out loud. The talk his father gave him when he was 12 about how to behave around police. The statistics they both knew about black men in police encounters. The careful calculation happening in his brain right now about whether reaching for his phone to prove his innocence might be the last thing he ever did. Slowly, carefully, Isaiah put his phone back in his pocket and raised his hands to chest level, palms out. I was just trying to show you the deed, he said, his voice steady but strained. We own this house. We moved in today. That's what you say. Reeves stepped closer. But we got a call about a suspicious person on this property, and now you're being uncooperative. He's not being uncooperative, Kendra's voice cracked. He's trying to show you proof. We have a deed, we have closing papers, we have a mortgage statement, we have everything. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back. This is my house. I'm standing on my own front lawn. Officer Santos finally spoke up. Dr. Matthews? Everyone froze. Kendra turned to look at her, really look at her for the first time. Santos was staring at Kendra with an expression of dawning recognition. You're Dr. Kendra Matthews, the neurosurgeon. The world tilted slightly. Yes. You performed emergency surgery on my son 18 months ago, Eduardo Santos. He fell off a trampoline, fractured his skull. Santos's voice actually broke. You saved his life. The other doctors said he might not make it, but you spent 7 hours in that OR, and he walked out of the hospital 3 weeks later, Kendra remembered. She remembered every case, but especially the close calls. Eduardo Santos, age 9, subdural hematoma with midline shift, increased intracranial pressure, parents beside themselves in the waiting room, She'd walked out of that surgery with blood on her scrubs and Eduardo's future in her hands, and she'd been so tired she'd almost fallen asleep standing up. "I remember Eduardo," Kendra said quietly. "How is he?" "Perfect. Completely perfect. He's playing soccer now. His grades are great. Santos seemed to realize where they were, what was happening. Her expression hardened. "Officer Reeves, these people own this house. Dr. Matthews is one of the top neurosurgeons at Metro General. I can personally vouch for them." Reeves looked like he'd swallowed something sour. We still need to verify. I'll verify it myself," Santos said firmly. "Dr. Matthews, do you have your ID and the property deed?" "Yes." Kendra's hands were shaking as she pulled out her driver's license and pulled up the digital deed on her phone. Santos examined both, then turned to Reeves. "They're clear. This is their property." Reeves still looked skeptical, but Santos's glare could have melted steel. He stepped back, though his posture remained defensive. Linda Ashford made a sound of protest. But he was acting suspicious. "He was planting flowers in his own yard," Santos said, her voice flat. "That's not suspicious. That's called being a homeowner." "I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." "By racially profiling your new neighbors?" Santos's eyebrows rose. "Because that's what this looks like from where I'm standing." Linda's face went purple. "I did no such thing. I would never. This has nothing to do with—" She didn't get to finish. Isaiah's pager went off. Wait, not Isaiah's, Kendra's. The high-pitched beeping cut through the tension like a knife. Kendra pulled her hospital pager from her pocket, checked the screen, and felt her stomach drop. 911, Metro General, trauma code. "I have to go," she said. "There's an emergency at the hospital." Santos nodded immediately. "Go, I'll handle this." Kendra was already moving toward the house to grab her keys when Reeves said, "Ma'am, we're not done here." "Yes, we are." Santos's voice could have cut glass. "Dr. Matthews is a neurosurgeon responding to a trauma code. Unless you want to explain to a patient's family why their loved one died because you delayed a surgeon over a bullshit call about a man planting flowers in his own yard, I suggest you let her leave. Now." Kendra didn't wait to hear Reeves's response. She ran inside, grabbed her keys and hospital badge, kissed Maya, who was watching from the upstairs window with wide, frightened eyes, and was in her car in under 2 minutes. Isaiah stood in the yard, hands still raised slightly, surrounded by police and security guards and Linda Ashford's hateful presence. Kendra met his eyes through the windshield. He nodded once. "Go. I'll be fine. Go." She went. The trauma bay at Metro General was controlled chaos when Kendra arrived. She'd called ahead during the drive, gotten the preliminary details from the charge nurse. 58-year-old male, found unconscious in his home by his wife. Right-sided weakness, slurred speech, unresponsive pupils. Probable stroke. They were prepping the OR for emergency surgery. Kendra changed into her scrubs in under a minute, scrubbed in, and was reviewing the CT scans when the attending ER physician, Dr. James Park, found her. "Large vessel occlusion in the middle cerebral artery," he said, pointing to the scan. "Right hemisphere. He's deteriorating fast. Blood pressure's through the roof. We need to operate now or he's not going to make it." "How long since onset of symptoms?" "Wife says maybe 90 minutes. We're still in the window for good outcomes if we move fast." "Who's the patient?" Dr. Park pulled up the chart. "Robert Ashford, age 58, lives locally." Kendra's brain stuttered to a halt. "What was that name?" "Robert Ashford. Why?" "The universe," Kendra thought distantly, "has a sick sense of humor." "What's his wife's name?" she heard herself ask. Dr. Park checked the chart. "Linda Ashford. She's in the waiting room, completely beside herself. Why?" Kendra stood there in her scrubs, still smelling faintly of the antibacterial soap from scrubbing in, and felt the weight of the most impossible decision she'd ever faced settle onto her shoulders like a physical thing. Linda Ashford, the woman who'd just racially profiled her husband, who'd called security and then the police, who'd stood there smugly while officers questioned Isaiah's right to exist in his own front yard. That woman's husband was dying. His brain was bleeding. The blockage in his middle cerebral artery was starving his neurons of oxygen, killing cells by the thousands with every second that passed. And Kendra was the only neurosurgeon on call. She was the only one who could save his life. This is the moment that will define everything. What would you do? Comment below before you keep watching, because you need to see how this plays out. Hit that like button if you're invested in this story. Now, here's what Dr. Matthews decided. Dr. Park was looking at her strangely. "Dr. Matthews, are you okay?" Kendra took a breath, then another. "I know the family." "Oh, good. That'll make things easier." "No." Kendra's voice came out harder than she intended. "It won't. But it doesn't matter. How fast can we get him to OR?" 10 minutes. "Make it 5. Kendra walked toward the OR, her mind a strange mix of crystal clarity and emotional chaos. She could see Isaiah's face as the police confronted him, could hear Linda Ashford's voice, suspicious person, could feel the accumulated weight of every microaggression, every racist encounter, every moment of having to prove she belonged. And she could also see Robert Ashford's CT scan, could see the blockage that was killing him, could calculate his odds if she didn't operate. Maybe 5% survival, probably with severe disability. His odds if she did operate and everything went perfectly, 70% survival with good functional recovery. She'd taken an oath. First, do no harm. The oath didn't say, do no harm except to racists. It didn't say, save lives except when you're angry. It said, do no harm. Full stop. Kendra scrubbed in again, this time with the surgical precision that had been drilled into her over thousands of hours in ORs. The familiar ritual calmed her, centered her. By the time she walked into the operating room and saw Robert Ashford's unconscious form on the table, she wasn't Kendra Matthews, whose husband had been humiliated in their own yard. She was Dr. Kendra Matthews, neurosurgeon, and she had a life to save. The surgery took 4 hours and 12 minutes. It was technically beautiful, the kind of operation that medical students would study in textbooks. Kendra made a small craniotomy to access the blocked artery, carefully extracted the clot using a stent retriever, restored blood flow to the oxygen-starved tissue, and closed up with the kind of precision that left minimal scarring. Robert Ashford's brain function started improving before he even left the OR. His pupils responded to light, his vital signs stabilized. By every medical metric, the surgery was a complete success. Kendra finished her notes, gave post-op instructions to the ICU team, and then did what she'd been dreading. She went to talk to Linda Ashford. The woman was in the surgical waiting room, and she looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past few hours. Her blonde highlight seemed garish under the fluorescent lights. Her yoga pants were wrinkled. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She looked up when Kendra walked in wearing her surgical scrubs, and Kendra watched the recognition hit. "You," Linda whispered. "Mrs. Ashford, I'm Dr. Matthews. I just finished operating on your husband." Linda's face went through several colors. You operated on Robert?" "Yes, he had a large vessel occlusion stroke. I performed a mechanical thrombectomy to remove the clot and restore blood flow. The surgery was successful. He's in ICU now, but his prognosis is good. If he continues to improve at this rate, he should make a full recovery with minimal lasting effects." The words came out clinical, professional, empty of emotion. Kendra watched them land on Linda Ashford like physical blows. "You saved his life," Linda said, her voice breaking. After today, you still..." "I'm a doctor," Kendra said simply. "It's what I do." Linda started crying then, really crying, her whole body shaking with sobs that might have been relief or shame or both. "I'm so sorry," she choked out. "I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. I don't know what I was thinking." "Mrs. Ashford," Kendra's voice cut through the crying, "your husband needs you to be strong right now. He's going to wake up confused and scared. He needs to see a calm face. Can you do that?" Linda nodded, wiping her eyes with shaking hands. "Good. A nurse will take you to see him in a few minutes. He's stable, but he's going to need extensive rehabilitation. The social worker will discuss that with you tomorrow." Kendra turned to leave. "Dr. Matthews," Linda's voice stopped her. I can't. Thank you doesn't even begin." "You're welcome," Kendra said. Because what else was there to say? She walked out of the waiting room, made it to the surgeon's lounge, closed the door, and finally let herself feel everything she'd been holding back for the past 4 hours. She'd saved his life. She'd done the right thing. She knew she'd done the right thing. So why did she feel so angry? Kendra got home at 2 a.m. to find Isaiah still awake, sitting in their new living room, surrounded by unpacked boxes, and drinking coffee that had probably gone cold hours ago. "Hey," he said softly when she walked in. "Hey. How'd it go?" Kendra sank onto the couch next to him. "I saved his life. Linda Ashford's husband. He's going to make a full recovery." Isaiah absorbed this. "How do you feel about that?" "I don't know," Kendra's voice cracked. "I don't know. I did the right thing, didn't I? I had to save him. That's the oath. That's the job. But God, Isaiah, I stood there in that OR and I wanted..." She stopped, unable to finish the thought. Isaiah pulled her against his chest, his hand running through her hair the way he'd done since they were both 22 and stupid in love. "You did the right thing," he said firmly, "even when it was hard. Especially because it was hard. That's who you are." "What happened after I left? With the police?" "Santos sent them away. Read Linda Ashford the riot act about filing false police reports. Made Reeves apologize, which he did while looking like he was chewing glass." Isaiah's voice hardened slightly. "Security's opening an investigation into her. Apparently, we're not the first black family she's harassed. Just the first ones with a neurosurgeon wife who saved her husband's life." Kendra laughed, but it came out wrong, almost like crying. "What a day." "What a day," Isaiah agreed. They sat there in the silence of their new home, surrounded by the life they'd built, box by box, degree by degree, trauma by trauma. Tomorrow, Maya would ask questions they'd have to answer. Tomorrow, the hospital would want to do a press release about the dramatic surgery. Tomorrow, Linda Ashford would have to figure out how to live with what she'd done. But tonight, Kendra and Isaiah just sat together in the dark, holding on to each other like anchors in a storm they'd weathered before and would weather again. 3 weeks later, Kendra was finishing rounds at Metro General when a nurse stopped her in the hallway. "Dr. Matthews, there's someone here to see you. Says it's important." Kendra's first thought was patient family, but when she got to the consultation room, she found a man she'd never met before. White, late 50s, thin and tired-looking, with a healing surgical scar visible above his collar. Robert Ashford. "Dr. Matthews," he said, standing up carefully, moving like someone still learning to trust their body again. "Thank you for seeing me. I know you're busy." Kendra closed the door, suddenly wary. "Mr. Ashford, you're looking well. How's your recovery going?" "Good. Great, actually. The physical therapist says I'm ahead of schedule." He paused. "Because of you. Because you're brilliant at what you do." "I was just doing my job." "Your job." Robert's laugh was bitter. "Right. Even after my wife, even after what she did to you and your husband, you still saved my life." Kendra said nothing. Robert sat down heavily, and for a moment, he just looked tired. Soul tired. "I need to tell you something. It's going to sound, I don't know, insane, maybe, but you deserve to know. Mr. Ashford, I'm divorcing Linda." The words hung in the air between them. "The stroke," Robert continued, "it did something to my brain. Not damage, well, beyond the obvious, but it's like it cleared something. Gave me this moment of horrible, perfect clarity." He looked directly at Kendra. "I've known for years that Linda has issues with race. I've watched her cross the street when black men approach, heard her comments about those people, seen her clutch her purse tighter in elevators. And I told myself it wasn't that bad, that she was just scared, that it was how she was raised. He rubbed his face with both hands. But when I woke up in the ICU and the nurse told me you'd operated on me, told me the black woman neurosurgeon, whose husband my wife had called the cops on, had spent 4 hours saving my life, I realized I'd been making excuses for racism for 27 years. And I was done. Kendra sat down slowly. Mr. Ashford, I filed for divorce yesterday. I'm also selling our house in Riverside Meadows and donating 50% of the proceeds to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. The other 50% is going to establish a scholarship fund for Black students pursuing medical degrees. In your name. Kendra's vision blurred. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Robert's voice was firm. I can't undo what Linda did. I can't undo years of looking the other way while she hurt people. But I can stop being complicit. I can use whatever time I have left, time you gave me, to try to make things right. He pulled out an envelope. There's one more thing. Linda told me that Officer Reeves, the cop who showed up that day, is her nephew. She called him specifically because she knew he'd back her up. She's been protecting him from brutality complaints for years, using her connections on the town council. Kendra took the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a thick stack of documents. Complaints against Officer Reeves, patterns of excessive force, racial profiling incidents, dates, names, details. I've already given copies to the FBI and the State Attorney General's office, Robert said. There's going to be an investigation. Reeves is being suspended pending review. Linda's facing charges for obstruction of justice and filing false police reports. Why are you telling me this? Because you saved my life when you had every reason not to. Because you deserve to know that your compassion, your professionalism, it mattered. It changed everything. Robert stood, moving carefully. I know it doesn't fix what happened, but maybe it's a start. He left, and Kendra sat alone in the consultation room, holding evidence of corruption and complicity and consequences. Her phone buzzed, a text from Isaiah. Maya wants to plant more flowers today. You coming home for dinner? Kendra typed back. Yes, I have something to tell you. That night, after Maya was asleep and the flowers were planted, daisies this time, bright yellow against the dark soil, Kendra and Isaiah sat on their back porch and watched the sunset over Riverside Meadows. So Robert Ashford is divorcing his wife, donating his money, and brought down a corrupt cop, Isaiah said, processing everything Kendra had told him. Because you saved his life, even though you didn't have to. I did have to, Kendra corrected. That's the oath. Not everyone would have done it. Then not everyone should be a surgeon. Isaiah pulled her close. I'm proud of you. I know it was terrible for both of us, but you did the right thing. Did I? Kendra stared out at their yard, at the flowers they'd planted together, at the home they'd fought so hard to earn. Officer Reeves is being investigated. Linda's facing charges. Robert's divorcing her and setting up scholarships, all because I saved his life. But Zay, I didn't do it for any of those outcomes. I didn't even know they were possible. So why did you do it? Kendra thought about that. About the woman she'd been at 22, starting medical school with stars in her eyes and student loans the size of a mortgage. About Grandma Rose cleaning houses so Kendra could have textbooks. About every patient who'd ever asked to see the real doctor. About the statistics that said only 300 people in the whole country looked like her and did what she did. I did it because somebody has to be better than the hate, she said finally. Somebody has to choose to heal instead of hurt. And it's exhausting and it's unfair that it has to be us, but maybe that's the point. Maybe we get to decide what justice looks like by how we act when we're angry. Isaiah kissed her temple. That's a hell of a burden to carry. Yeah, Kendra agreed. But at least we're carrying it together. They sat there as the sky turned purple and gold. Two people who'd done everything right and still had to fight for the right to exist in peace. Still choosing hope over bitterness. Still planting flowers, even when the ground seemed determined to stay hard. In the end, that was the real twist. Not that Robert Ashford had a crisis of conscience, or that Linda faced consequences, or that Officer Reeves got exposed. The real twist was that Kendra Matthews looked at a woman who'd tried to destroy her family, held that woman's husband's life in her hands, and chose mercy. Because that's what it meant to be better than the hate. That's what it meant to win. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We tell real stories about real people making impossible choices every single week. What would you have done in Dr. Matthews' position? Drop your honest answer in the comments below. And if you believe in karma, justice, and people being better than their worst moments, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the way we respond to hate defines who we are more than the hate itself ever could. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.